What if your silence held more power than your words? What if protecting your heart was the key to unlocking your true worth? And what if being a mystery wasn't a flaw, but your greatest strength? Let me take you into a truth that's often ignored in today's world. A truth about the power, the dignity, and the deep God-given wisdom of a woman. We're living in a time where transparency is praised like a virtue. We're told that being an open book is the highest form of honesty. That to love is to tell everything. But here's the truth. God never intended for you to be an open book to just any man. He designed you to be a sacred story, a hidden treasure, a woman of discernment who knows the difference between what should be revealed and what must be guarded. And sadly, many women today find themselves feeling drained, confused, and deeply heartbroken. Not because they are weak, but because they gave too much too soon to someone who wasn't ready to receive it with care. You see, the world has taught women to prove love with exposure, to share everything in order to be seen as real. But in doing so, so many have lost pieces of themselves along the way. A wise woman must learn something the world doesn't often teach anymore. She must learn the art of discretion, the quiet strength of silence, and the wisdom of withholding, not out of fear or manipulation, but out of honor for the calling God has placed on her life. So today I want to walk you through 7 sacred things a woman should never share too quickly with a man. Not to deceive him, but to protect the incredible beauty, power, and anointing God has placed within her soul. And I promise you, if you stay with me through this journey, this message will not only shift the way you see yourself, it will change the way you enter every relationship going forward. So, are you ready? Because here's where it begins. A woman's strength is not just in what she reveals, but in what she holds back. In a culture that demands full transparency, it takes boldness to be mysterious. But mystery is not deception, it is wisdom, and there's power in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The woman who understands this truth walks differently. She's not hiding because she's scared, she's guarding what is holy. She's not withholding to manipulate, tease, honoring the deep well inside her. God designed women with depth, not to be exploited, but to be cherished. And that depth, the heart of a woman, is a wellspring of emotion, vision, and wisdom. But when a woman pours out that well too quickly, something sacred is lost, and far too often it's taken for granted. How many women have bared their souls hoping for connection, only to watch the man walk away, never fully grasping the weight of what she gave? How many have shared their deepest fears and battles only to regret opening that door to someone who didn't know how to guard it? That's why every woman must understand. Your value is not in how much you expose, it's in how wisely you protect what matters. There is a quiet and radiant beauty in restraint. The world teaches that love requires full disclosure, but real love also requires boundaries. And boundaries aren't walls, they are wisdom. You should never feel obligated to share every thought, every scar, or every past mistake just to prove your love. True love doesn't demand reckless openness, it honors discernment, because a guarded heart is not a cold heart. It's a wise one. And this is just the beginning. She doesn't explain herself at every turn anymore because she knows that mystery, when rooted in wisdom, is part of her strength. And that's exactly what sets the strongest women apart. They are the ones who understand that both their words and their hearts are sacred. They do not hand them out freely, not because they are guarded by fear, but because they are grounded in purpose. This isn't about playing games. This isn't manipulation. This is protection, a quiet, intentional act of honoring what is holy within them. Some things simply don't belong in casual conversations or early-stage connections. Not because they are shameful, but because they are sacred. A woman's past, her private prayers, her unspoken dreams. These are deeply personal truths that, when shared too freely or too soon, can be misunderstood, mishandled, or worse, used against her. The truth is, not every man is equipped to carry the weight of a woman's soul. And that's why a wise woman learns to discern who can be trusted with her truths and who cannot. Once she embraces this principle, something within her shifts. She no longer seeks validation through oversharing. She no longer feels the urge to explain her every emotion, every moment of doubt or fear. She knows she's not withholding out of insecurity, she's choosing wisdom, and in that choice she finds peace. Her silence speaks strength, her boundaries speak worth. She becomes a woman of quiet power, moving with a confidence that demands respect without a single word spoken. And at the heart of her being lies something even deeper, her faith. A woman's faith and personal convictions are not just part of her character, they are her foundation. They are the very core of who she is. These things are not meant to be easily shaken, traded, or silenced for the sake of a relationship. We live in a world that constantly tells us to blend in, to bend, to accommodate. But a woman who is rooted in truth must stand firm. No man, no matter how charming or persuasive, should ever have the power to make her question what she believes. Faith is not just a list of rules or doctrines. It is a guiding force, a light in the darkness, an anchor in life's fiercest storms. When a woman begins to compromise her spiritual foundation to keep a man, she risks losing the very strength that once kept her grounded. And it doesn't always happen overnight. Often it begins slowly. He doesn't share her faith, so she tones it down. He brushes off her convictions and she starts to doubt them. She skips church to be with him. She prays less. She hesitates to even bring up God in conversation, and before she realizes it, the fire within her starts to fade. What was once a blazing source of passion and peace becomes a flicker barely holding on. But hear this. A woman's faith is not a discussion. It is a sacred bond between her and God. It is not something to be negotiated, debated, or diluted just to keep a relationship afloat. If a man truly loves her, he will honor her convictions, not challenge them. He will support her relationship with God, not stand in the way of it. He will help her grow spiritually, not pull her back into compromise, because a man who mocks, diminishes, or belittles a woman's faith, that is not a man who values her soul. And if he does not value her soul, he is not worthy of her heart. Because when a man truly values a woman's soul, he won't ask her to shrink her faith. He'll stand in awe of it. But far too many women make this heartbreaking mistake, believing they must diminish their devotion to God just to keep a man interested. It never starts loudly. It begins with small compromise, harmless in the moment, but devastating over time. She downplays her convictions. She avoids talking about church. She begins silencing the voice of God in her own heart just to avoid making him uncomfortable. But let me tell you this. Any relationship built on spiritual compromise is already standing on shaky ground. A woman must guard her connection with God with everything she has, because it's more than just her belief system. It is her source. It's where her wisdom flows from. It's the wellspring of her strength. It's the voice that gives her clarity when the world is loud and confusing. When she is rooted in faith, she sees with spiritual clarity. She's able to recognize, is this man leading me closer to God, or is he quietly pulling me further away? And that discernment becomes her compass. She will not be swayed by charming words if the actions don't match. She will not fall for surface-level affection if it costs her spiritual peace. And she will have the strength, yes, the courage to walk away from any relationship that begins to suffocate the fire in her soul. Because faith is not a performance. It's not something a woman should ever feel pressured to prove or explain. It's a sacred presence she carries within her. It flows into her decisions. It lights her path. And if a man cannot honor that, light is not the one God has chosen to walk beside her. And just as her faith must be guarded, so must her past. A woman's past is a holy chapter in her journey. It carries both pain and purpose, scars and strength. It's marked by missteps, yes, but also by victories that no one else may ever see. Yet time and again women feel they must reveal every detail of their past, every mistake, every failed relationship, every heartbreak, just to prove they're trustworthy. But true wisdom says otherwise. Not everything needs to be spoken, especially not to someone who may not be spiritually or emotionally equipped to handle it. Because here's the truth. Every woman has moments she would rewrite if she could, choices she regrets, paths she wouldn't walk again. But those moments don't define her, they refine her, and the grace of God covers what the world tries to shame. So if God has forgiven her, no man has the right to hold her past against her. A woman should never feel obligated to relive her wounds, to unpack her history. or to recount her worst memories just to prove she's being sincere. Some stories are sacred. Some chapters are meant to be held between her and God alone, because not all men are worthy of that level of access. In fact, some men, when given too much information, will weaponize it. What begins as a vulnerable moment can later be twisted into accusations in the heat of an argument. You did this before, how? Do I know you won't do it again? You were with someone like that. What does that say about you? These aren't questions of love. They are signs of control, insecurity, and immaturity. That's why a wise woman must protect her story from becoming someone else's ammunition. She must discern who can steward her history with grace and who is simply digging for leverage. Because a mature loving man won't demand to know every detail of her past. He will be more interested in the woman she has become than in the mistakes she once made. Because the right man won't demand to relive your past, they'll honor the woman you are today. But let's not forget, your past isn't only made of mistakes, it's also woven with pain. Deep, complex, invisible wounds that don't heal with time alone. Some of them take years, and some are still healing. And when those tender parts are exposed too early or shared with the wrong person, they can easily be reopened. Not every man is capable of understanding the full depth of your journey. And the truth is, not every man should. Healing is not something that can be rushed. It's not something to be spilled out just to meet expectations or to prove your honesty. It is personal, sacred, and it deserves to be protected. You are not defined by what you've been through. You are refined by it. And when the right man shows up, the man who sent not just stumbled in, he won't need to know every detail of your yesterday to love you completely today. He will see the strength in your eyes. He will hear the wisdom in your words, and he will feel the grace that has carried you forward through every storm. He'll love who you are now without needing to dissect who you used to be. But there's another part of you that needs just as much protection, perhaps even more. Your dreams. A woman's dreams are holy ground. They are the quiet whispers God places in her heart, the visions that light her path, the desires that give her purpose, the calling that fuels her soul. These dreams are not random, they are divine. But here's what we often forget. Not every dream is meant to be shared too soon, and not every man is meant to hear them. Sometimes a woman opens her heart and shares her dreams only to be met with blank stares, rolled eyes, or worse, dismissive laughter. He doesn't believe it. Her. He doubts her capabilities. He questions her calling, and little by little his disbelief becomes a voice in her head. He might say, "That's unrealistic," or "You're not strong enough," or "Who do you think you are to do that?" And though the words seem small, they carry weight. Words spoken out of ignorance or insecurity can plant seeds of self-doubt that grow into full-blown fear. And if she's not careful, she'll begin to believe him. She'll dim her light. She'll shrink her dreams. She'll silence the fire that once burned so bright within her. But a wise woman knows. Her dreams are not public property. They are not for casual opinions or careless hands. Some dreams need time to grow in the quiet, to be nurtured in the dark like seeds fed by faith, guarded by determination, watered by prayer. And when the time is right, God will bring the right person who sees that vision and says, "Let me walk beside you as it unfolds." Because some people, no matter how close they seem, simply cannot see what she sees. Some may try to redirect her not because they're evil, but because her dream is too big for their vision. Others, driven by jealousy or fear, may even try to stop her entirely. That's why discretion isn't just wise, it's essential. Because your dreams are delicate in their beginning stages, and they need your faith, not someone else's permission to survive. The next we'll look at something many women give away far too easily, yet it's one of the most powerful things they possess: their strength. And trust me, not everyone deserves to witness the full force of it, because dreams like seeds need safe soil to grow, and not every man is meant to walk beside you while they bloom. That's why a wise woman must be deeply discerning about who she allows into the sacred space of her aspirations. Dreams are fragile when they first form. They need protection. They need prayer. They need the presence of God, not the pressure of someone who doesn't understand them. Not every man is meant to walk with her toward her destiny. Some were only meant to watch from a distance. Some God never intended to walk that road at all. But the man who truly loves her, He won't just tolerate her dream, she will honor them. He won't be threatened by her ambition. He won't try to shrink her vision to fit into his comfort zone. He'll see those dreams as part of who she is, and he'll want nothing more than to see them come alive until she knows without doubt that she's with a man who will protect and nurture that vision. She must keep certain dreams tucked deep in her heart, letting them grow in the shelter of God's timing, not in the judgment of others. And just like her dreams, a woman's strength is another sacred gift tone that deserves to be guarded with equal care. Strength isn't just about physical endurance or being the one who never falls apart. It's found in resilience and the grace to carry burdens quietly and the courage to stand tall through life's fiercest storms. But here's the truth. Not every man is worthy of witnessing the full weight of that strength. Some men will genuinely admire her strength, while others will try to use it for their own convenience. A wise woman understands this. She knows she doesn't have to constantly prove how strong she is. Yet so many women often, without realizing it, feel the need to become the fixer, the emotional anchor, the one who carries everything and everyone. She's the one who smiles through exhaustion, who sacrifices without pause, who gives endlessly, even when her heart is breaking in silence, all because she believes her ability to endure hardship will somehow make her more worthy of love. But here's the danger. The wrong man will take advantage of that. He'll lean on her strength, depend on her energy, take from her emotional well without ever pouring anything back in. He will expect her to carry both their burdens, never stopping to ask, is she okay? Is she tired? Does she need someone to carry her for once? Let's be clear, there is a profound difference between being strong and being unbreakable. A woman should never feel the need to pretend she doesn't need rest, that she never feels overwhelmed, that she never longs for someone to just hold her hand and say, "You don't have to do it all today." Strength isn't about carrying everything on your own. It's about knowing when to lean on God, when to pause, and when to walk away from anything that demands more than your soul can give. So yes, a woman must guard her strength from those who only want to benefit from it, but will never reciprocate. Because some men, when they see a strong woman, mistake her independence for invincibility. They say, she's tough, she doesn't need anything. And they use that assumption to justify ignoring her emotional needs. But even the strongest woman still longs to be seen, to be supported, and to be safe. Right away, we'll talk about something even more intimate, a part of you that most people overlook, but that holds tremendous power. Your heart. Because not every feeling needs to be shared. Not every emotion deserves an audience. Because even the strongest woman, if she's not careful, can end up carrying far more than she was ever created to hold. That's why a wise woman learns to guard the full expression of her strength. She knows that just because she can endure something doesn't mean she should. She understands that revealing the depth of what she can handle too sooner to the wrong person may invite others to rely on her in ways that drain her dry. True strength isn't about proving your toughness. It's not about carrying the heaviest load in silence. It's about wisdom. It's the ability to recognize when to be vulnerable and when to stand tall. It's knowing when to lean in and when to walk away. And most importantly, it's knowing who is worthy of seeing your full resilience and who is not. Because here's the truth. Not everyone who admires your strength will honor it. Some will want to benefit from it without ever pouring back into you. That's why a woman must protect her energy from those who would drain it, remembering always she was never meant to carry the weight of the world alone. No woman should ever allow a man to take her strength for granted, because her power is not in how much she can carry, it's in knowing when to let go. And that brings us to something even more sacred, something most people see on the outside but never fully understand. A woman's heart. Her heart is not just a source of love, it is a sacred space, a deep well of dreams, longings, fears, and unspoken thoughts. But here's where wisdom whispers again. Not every emotion, every hope, or every fear needs to be laid bare before a man. There are places in a woman's soul that are meant to remain between her and God. Not because she's hiding something wrong, but because wisdom teaches that not everything must be spoken aloud. Some things are too precious to be handed to someone who hasn't proven they know how to hold them. She must guard the true intentions of her heart, because once shared with the wrong person, those intentions can be misunderstood, dismissed, or even twisted and used against her. So many women have believed that complete honesty in a relationship means sharing everything, every worry, every inner thought, every hidden desire. But the truth is, not every man can carry the depth of a woman's emotions. Some may pretend to listen, but they don't really hear. Some may offer shallow comfort without ever truly understanding. And others, whether by immaturity or manipulation, may use what she reveals as a weapon in moments of conflict or control. That's why discernment matters. A woman must be careful with whom she shares the most intimate truths of her heart. There are times when silence is more powerful than words. Feelings are real. They are valid, but they are not always meant to be voiced. Sometimes the greatest strength is letting her actions reveal her heart, not her confessions. Because the man who truly loves her, the one who sees her clearly, will recognize what's inside her through the way she carries herself, through her grace, her courage, her presence. She won't need to explain herself again and again. She won't need to pour out every corner of her soul just to be understood. She won't have to prove her worth through emotional vulnerability alone, because the right man, he will feel her worth without needing 1,000 words. Because when a woman understands the sacredness of her heart, she no longer feels the need to expose it for validation. She protects it with purpose. The wrong man will ask her to open her heart completely, not to cherish it, but to control it. He may press her for stories from her past, for confessions about her insecurities, for glimpses into her greatest hopes and fears, not to love her better, but to gather tools he can use to gain emotional leverage. But a wise woman, she knows better. She knows that the deepest parts of her soul are not for public access. Not every man deserves to hold her most vulnerable truths. And real love does not require constant exposure of every thought, every emotion, or every scar. She understands that intimacy is not about spilling everything, it's about sharing wisely. The woman who guards her heart with wisdom is not cold, she's not distant, she is disciplined, she is strong enough to know that her emotions are pressoused. They should never be poured out into hands that haven't earned their place. She doesn't rush to prove her love. She trusts that the right man will recognize her affection through her quiet kindness, her unwavering loyalty, her consistent presence. She believes that her boundaries are not barriers, but bridges to trust. And because of that, she doesn't give herself away too quickly. She knows that what lives inside her is sacred. A woman is not an open book for just anyone to read. She is a mystery, a treasure, a living reflection of God's wisdom and grace. In a world that shouts, "Tell everything to prove it's real," she gently whispers, "Some things are too holy to be spoken." And that is the wisdom that protects her. She knows that her power isn't found in how much she shares, but in how much she wisely withholds her past. It does not define her, and it does not belong to every man who asks about it. Her faith, it is her lifeline, and it should never be diluted to make someone else comfortable. Her dreams, they belong to her and to God until the day they are safe enough to fly. Her strength, it is not for everyone to lean on, and her heart's deepest longings, they are not for careless hands. There is power in discretion. There is dignity in silence. And the woman who lives by this truth carries herself with quiet, undeniable confidence. She does not explain herself at every turn. She does not overshare in the name of connection. And she certainly does not hand over the keys to her soul to someone who hasn't proven himself trustworthy. Instead, she walks in wisdom. She stands in strength. She radiates grace. And she waits for the one who sees her value without needing to unpack every detail of her past. So may you walk in that same wisdom. May you rise in that same strength. And may you never forget, the most valuable treasures are always kept hidden until the right time, with the right person in the right hands.